A human person. Brad put this picture on the internet and I thought it looked cheesy and perfect for our talk. I want to introduce myself a little bit more for those of you who don't know me. Hey, look, do you notice the resemblance of Elvis behind me? Yeah, I'm related. No kidding. All right, so I am still handsome, very good looking. You know, and I live from Louisiana. It's still very cold here, by the way. For those of you who heard my joke about weather, I don't like it. But I embrace it with my whole heart and soul and body. Especially if it's the negative 26. I have an annual run outside with no shirt on when it gets below negative 20. And so I did it again this year. It hurts. You should try it. See, it's still all good. Now I want to introduce my wife. Look at her. She's great. She's gorgeous. Okay, so her name's Kelly. She loves coffee. She gave me permission to show you this pic, so don't get me in trouble. We just had number 6. I know for some of you that's just a good start, but you know, for your families, but that's okay, you know. These are my 6 children here. Look at them all looking cute, spiffy for Easter, you know? Yeah, they look like me. You know what's funny? When you have this many kids, people ask me if they're your kids, but notice they're white, like I am, and they look like me. So every time I get the question, are they all yours? I'm like, well, if I had a Spanish kid and an Asian kid in my basket, I'd understand the question. And even then, I'd probably still say something like, yeah, they all come from the same mom, too. Figure that one out. So, this is Malia. She's cute. She loves to do plays. She loves Star Wars. Her and I get along. She's my personality with my wife's looks, which is really funny to watch when they get in arguments. Gianna's like really the princess. She loves to be, you know, she loves Taylor Swift, okay, by the way. Loves Taylor Swift. And I'll catch her dancing in her room to shake it off. So I go in there and shake off glitter and stuff like, look, I'm shaking it off. She's like, that's not what it means. Like, okay. Sorry. Jeremiah has a need for speed. The kid is going to be in trouble with the law, so he's not going to get a license. The other day, I'm not kidding, we're sitting in a Suburban, and he tells me he sees this yellow Camaro pass some damn kitchen. Sure. Let's try to gun this baby to 120. It's going to start shaking, man. So anyways, that's his grandpa's boat. Isaiah is our animal lover, loves animals. The kid is a ninja when he sees bugs. Like he'll see a bug and like, moth! And it's like that movie with the squirrel. Squirrel, you know, just kind of like that. Alright, well anyways, this is Isaiah. This is Tobias. Do y'all remember Big Wheels? Yeah. This thing is so much fun to ride. I'm so mad I can't get on it. You're like, yeah, do y'all remember Big Wheels? You can peel out this thing. Oh, it's awesome. So he does that. Tobias actually is our funniest one. He impersonates everybody in the family. He'll impersonate you. It's real cute. And then this is our newest member, Xavier Pio Versati. Wait, that's not him. Wait, that really isn't. I don't know who that is. That's one of our children, but I can't think. You know how I know that's not him? Because that's in Louisiana. That's a problem. Well, this is who he is now. Look at that. I know that's him because my wife just bought that bracelet. See, I'm a detective. I know those stories. I have no idea who that kid is. Anyways, let's get into the talk. Love, sexuality, human person. Now, this is a weird picture to show because it doesn't really show a very nice image of love, but in fact, it captures all of love. This is my friend who had just passed away with cancer and his wife. And the reason I wanted to show this picture is tonight as an image that love is not always flowery, which you all hear. You always hear that it's not. But the beauty of love is it grows and it causes us, and in a certain respect, to stretch and to come to understand who we are. And we can't really know ourselves unless we experience it. I mean, we really can't. And sexuality is rooted in this. Very much so. And to have an appropriate understanding of what sex is and how to relate to the other sex also means you have to understand who the human person is. And we don't understand this to the depths that we will in heaven, that's for sure, but we can come to a greater and greater understanding. So keep this picture in mind as we go through this. So I'm going to first talk about the human person, and then I'm going to talk about authentic love. which, by the way, if you look up the word authentic, it kind of means the source, the principal source of a thing. You know, no problems with it. So we're going to talk about the principal source of love. Now, I'm not just going to say God. We talk about the human person in love as well. All right, and then talk about what we call integrated sexuality. Now, this is a big word for a lot of you. Integrated just simply means that I'm going to take these two terms, human person, authentic love, and how it becomes an expression of sexuality. So the two are going to come together to show us what it truly means to be a sexual person. All right, now when you hear that word sexual, a lot of times you're like, oh. We reduce it to a guy who's perverted, right? To the dude that'd be like, he said gutter. Oh, gutters. Like 8th grade, when you use words like nuts, they lose it for like, he said nuts. Yeah, you said, So anyway, so let's talk about the human person. All right? There are two fundamental questions we ask as a human person. From the moment you're born, you ask it, not articulate it. Okay, you won't articulate it, but you ask it in action, by the way. And the first one is, who am I? You may think there's no way you asked that question when you were a newborn, but you did. You did ask it in a different way. How did you ask it? The first way you came to understand who you were when you were out of the womb was the connection you made with your mother. It's the first one. All right? Who am I? And then as you relate to your mother, this question that's even fundamental to that is essentially, whose am I? Who do I belong to? The word belong here. Very important. Because a baby needs his mother. He receives life, he receives nourishment from his mother. So from the very beginning, you are in relationship. You start in this world in relationship. Okay? This is a very profound thought, but at the same time, it's very simple. And then the question, the fundamental question of how am I to act? So who am I? Who do I belong to? And then how should I act? Now that question I'll talk about in the next section when you talk about dating. So tonight, I'm just going to focus on these first two. Who am I? And whose do I belong to? Okay, those are the first two. Now, identity is a really big thing for us. And in our culture, what we like to do to people is we like to take a label and stamp it on them. And we do it quick. And we do it sometimes not even knowing it. And when we do it, what we do is reduce the human person to one small facet of their character. And that's a problem. But we like labels in America. We like Jimmy John's, different sandwiches in the subway. Right? I'm just throwing it out there. Oh man, I could lettuce wrap some meat and call it Courtney Brown's. It's the bread. It looks like the sub to me. Like Jersey Mike's, see, they all kind of different ways to call your food, right? But labels, let me just give you one that sticked on to people real quick too. It's like a little bit like jock. Oh, if a guy likes to do ballet or likes to do any type of like interior decorating, oh, he's gay. I mean, my brother had that label stuck right on him. And that was 20 years ago. And it's still the same. And we're doing this all the time. And this whole question of gender, too, is the same thing. Like, well, I don't do everything what guys like to do, so therefore I'm not a guy. So you're going to reduce manhood into being a guy from your ability to play football and to play a sport and to wear jeans low or tight. Those skinny jeans are weird. I try putting them on. Oh. Some of us are not meant for that. Some of us need to stay husky. That's a nice word of saying loose. I'm just a banana Republican. I don't get along. I got some nice clothes there. But anyhow, but the core of who we are first starts from what I said. When you come out of that womb as a man or a female, a male or a female, or your body determines that in a lot of ways. So from the very beginning, as you come out of the womb, you are in relationship. You're a son and daughter. All right? With a body to a mother and a father, you are son and daughter. Okay? Then, from that relationship, you're brother, sister. So you're already into the role of what I do now. I treat others as my brother and sister, which flows from the core of who I am as a son and daughter. And from there, I make myself a spousal gift eventually as a spouse, as a husband or a father. Excuse me, a husband or a wife. Okay, that's the same thing here, Courtney. Picking up on it. But then from husband and wife, as I make myself a sincere gift to another, then fruitfulness happens, fatherhood and motherhood. Which every one of you in this room, your purpose in this life is to have essentially become a father or a mother. A priest forgoes this relationship, husband and wife, to another person for the spiritual marriage of church and bride. Okay, the Dominican sisters wear white as their continual wedding garment of their gift of Christ every day. Okay, they are bride to Christ himself. They are signs of what's to come for our union with God in heaven. That's a beautiful thought, okay? So from there, though, talking about just the body. But see, here's the fundamental thing about being human. We're not just bodily, we're also spiritual. And what makes us human is the fact that we're united body and soul. What is a spirit? Spirit, simply stated by Aquinas, is a being with freedom and intellect. The ability to choose and the ability to think. Freedom and intellect. So you have freedom and intellect spiritually united to your material body. So therefore, as a man or a woman, you are a spiritual being. You're a spiritual man or you're a spiritual woman. Alright, this sounds simple, I know, but this is kind of so fundamental to our faith. Because when we get into the question of love, it requires those things. John Paul II took this question straight from the beginning. All right, when Jesus was asked who can get a divorce, I want you to think of a different question. What the Pharisees are doing to Jesus here, when they ask him who can get a divorce, they're actually asking Jesus this question: is faithful love possible? Is it really possible? Is this love that you talk about, generous gift, love your neighbor more than yourself, is it even possible? Is it even real? Which is a common modern question. It's a common modern question. Is faithful love even possible amidst all of the problems we see in the world? All right? Well, John Paul II quotes Jesus. Jesus says, "In the beginning it was not so." And he quotes Genesis 1, male and female he created them, in the image and likeness of God. And then he quotes Genesis 2. Now, I know some of you hear the word Genesis, you go to school, you hear about evolution, creation, you hear all of that stuff. But not to get into evolution and creation, maybe that's a whole other talk. But where I'm going to say this for a second, if Jesus is God, all right, he's God, he sees validity in Genesis here, because he quotes it. So even our God quotes Genesis, so there's validity in the story. And the question here is not whether or not that it factually happened as such. The question about this story is that it always happens. It's conveying a deep mystery for us in Genesis 1 and 2. That this experience that Adam and Eve have is something we always experience. And that's what I'll prove to you here in a few minutes. We always experience what went on in the garden. We always experience it. Every day of our lives. And until we get into heaven, we will live in it perpetually. Okay? So in the 6 days of creation, this is just a simple way the Hebrews saw the world. You got your first 3 days were the realms, and then the second 3 days, sets of 3 days, the rulers of those realms. Does this make sense? You can't have birds without air, right? You can't really have people and animals without land. If you see Waterworld, that movie's terrible. It really isn't bad. But you should watch it, it's a lot of fun. They have a lot of jet skis, it's really cool. So anyhow, but the way that the Hebrews saw this was not stuck on the day. Genesis 1 is actually chronologically later. What the Hebrew's doing here is showing the Hebrew author is showing us the order of creation. Its focus is on the order of creation. It chooses the word day to show order. Alright? He's not writing a science textbook. Alright? Let me give you an example. If I were to write a science textbook about a deep story that I'm about to convey to you about the love I have for my wife, it would sound like this. So, the neurons. I'm lost. I don't know where to go from there. For you scientists, why don't you write it out for me so I can practice that? So, but I want to share with you, in Genesis 1, there are two phrases that are important. When he says, "Let us make man in our image," there's a pause. Now, some of you may not think pause is a big deal here. It's a huge deal. Because what God's doing is that when He creates man, He stops to reflect. And what is He reflecting on? A blueprint. How am I to create man in my image and likeness? He reflects within himself to create. By the way, in the sexual act, if it's in love, is a reflection of self, gift to the other, and receiving the other. It's a gift of self in the act. If it's not that, if you're not intending that, then you're lying with your body. Then you're lying to the other person. That you're willing to create an act that's so strong and so beautiful and so sacred, but you're not willing to accept the fruit of it. Which, not just children, but is also the emotional connectivity, the physical connectivity that you experience, and the spiritual connectivity that you experience. Okay, it's a beautiful act that needs to be sacred. So from the very beginning, what God is doing is He reflects within Himself in creating man in a gift. That's a beautiful thing. So we're intentional. God's creation of us is intentional. It says He's made male and female in His image and in His likeness. His image and His likeness, which means we can think, we have free will, and we can love. Freedom exists for the sake of love. You cannot love without freedom. The other thing that's really important about this pause, by the way, is that every one of you in this room has the ability to wonder. Every one of you wonder, and then you ponder. What's your name back there in the black shirt? I know you. I just remember your name. No, not you. I know you, man. Come on. No, what's your name? Yeah. Sam. Let me use you as an example, Sam. Sorry, buddy. You just look like you can take this example. So, anyways, when Sam walks down the street, okay, and sees a beautiful woman, all right, is it just merely a beautiful woman that's walking past him? Or is there a part of him that starts to ponder or wonder her beauty? And by the way, the answer to that is yes. But what we're doing today is no longer allowing ourselves to do that. We don't stop to reflect and ponder the moments and the experiences that we have. We're just not doing it. For example, my son, we had to get into the house. Okay? And I don't know if you have a babysitter or you remember this when you were a kid, or if you have little kids or your brothers or sisters. If they see something that they're amazed by, they stop. No questions asked. They have no sense of hurry at all. Walking to church, you better time it 10 to 15 minutes before, because you're coming in late, because my kid saw a bug that was this big and was pondering and wondering where it was going to go. And then realized he could smash it. Hey, you ever wonder why puddles? You ever see kids, they stomp in puddles? That's so amazing to me. Because if I went up to people like, puddle! People like, he's where? Some screws loose. Now the reason is because we know it's a puddle. But to my kid, that's a world. That's an adventure. He can make a mark in that puddle. He's watching his ability to change existence of a thing. If you want to make it go really deep for you philosophers in here, he's essentially saying, I can mess this up. Which is, I know, sounds so bizarre. But see, these are the type of things, like, what do you think about when you pray? A lot of this stuff. Anyway, like, I start laughing in the chapel, like in the adoration chapel. It's like, why you're like, my son the other day, my daughter. Yeah, let's just leave it at that. So, kids are great. You get to say things to kids that you never think you'd ever say to a human person ever. I'll get to that in a second. But he gives Adam a task, though, in Genesis 1, to care and cultivate for the garden. Avodah, which is a Hebrew word that simply says to care and cultivate the garden. The garden also is a Hebrew word that also means covenant. And what's the covenant? A relationship with God. And what is Adam supposed to protect and guard? A covenant with God. Not just flowers in the garden. Okay? And notice one thing too, in the Hebrew rabbinical tradition, they were not created in the garden. They were brought into the garden. And that's a beautiful thought. That God invites us into His covenant. You see, this is not just a story, like it's trying to convey so much truth. It's like, when you start to unpack it, you're like, this is awesome. Genesis is great. But then you're still like, well, whatever. You don't get stuck in creation and evolution. It's not about creation and evolution tonight. It's about the mystery of God creating us as human beings. All right? Now this text, and we'll come back to this. Okay, in Genesis 2, we see the most subjective, poetic experience. Okay? Let me give you an example of how Genesis is written. Genesis 2 is poetic, and it's deep in its poetry. And what do I mean by poetry? Okay? The other day, I was sitting at my table, and I saw all of my children, and then my wife. All right? My wife was pregnant, so the other day, this was more like 3 months ago. It was an other day at some point, right? You know, so anyways. So I'm watching my wife, and I'm just, all of a sudden, as I'm sitting there, time starts to slow down. And my kids, I start to watch them, and as they interact with each other. And then the smile, every smile became so small. And it expanded into joy. And I started to see the joy in their face, as if I was looking at a painting for the first time in my life. And then I looked at my wife. And as I looked at her, and as she's doing dinner, and I'm watching her and I'm staring at her, I know that looks awkward for some people, but I was staring. Not only did her beauty escalate for me, but this experience that came to me is like, you're still more beautiful than I ever thought I would ever imagine a woman to be. Okay. Now, let me tell you how I could do that scientifically. I didn't get enough sleep last night. I'm just kidding. So, see, it's deep poetry. And this is Genesis 2. And what we have in Genesis 2 is 3 original experiences. The first one is the solitude. When he breathes life, I gotta say this real quick, the breath of life, Ruah, those of you who had classes with me know this, and have heard me speak before, and I reiterate this, Ruah is a kiss. God kisses us into existence. A kiss is a powerful form of affection. It's a powerful expression of gift. It is. It has always been and always will be something we do as humans. I have yet to see, well, I'm not going to look this up either, but other animals kissing. You can get some weird stuff on YouTube. I'm just throwing it out there. Don't do it. But, we kiss. We kiss. Jesus is betrayed by a kiss. What is kiss? The Native Americans believe you exchange the part of your soul to the other. Oh, it's profound. That is so don't just kiss anyone you see. That would be weird too. I'm a kisser. It's just what I do. I come from another planet. But in original solitude, when he creates Adam is the first. There's 2 aspects of solitude. The first one is Adam becoming aware of himself. He determined, and by the way, he's just by walking around, experiencing and wonder things. When you go to a new place, you guys know what I'm talking about. When you go exploring in the woods and stuff, or hiking, you're captivated by that experience. The girls, same thing. You're so that's an experience of wonder and ponder. Adam's experiencing himself in relationality, his conscious awareness. And from there, the gift told that you should not eat of this tree, right? Tells him that he can determine himself. I can choose right or wrong. The other aspect of original solitude is man is created for another. That by myself, it's not good for man to be alone. And as God presents the animals to Adam, he feels the ache. Castaway is a great movie about this ache. It's awesome. The whole reason at the end of the movie says, you kept me alive. When he finally gets back to America, and he goes to the woman who's now married to another man. On this island for 4 years, sorry to give away the movie, but the movie's awesome. He said, the thought of you kept me alive. This is the experience of original solitude. An experience, this ache for another. So God puts a sleep on Adam. And as he casts him to sleep, and what's beautiful about this painting is notice that God has Eve in the arm of his hands, and Michelangelo is showing the first original marriage. That's why he painted this. The cloak, this red cloak, represents the brain of God, and he's presenting his beloved daughter to this man. What an honor. What an honor. Every one of you men, if you stand before the altar, and that father brings his precious daughter down, it is an honor. It is an unbelievable honor that you get to marry this woman. it would be an unbelievable honor for you to spend the rest of your life with the woman you choose to marry. It's an honor. Even when she gets older, she starts to get a little crazier, and you get a little bigger, but you're still handsome like me. It's an incredible honor. Sorry. I want to show you a clip of what it would have been like for Adam to experience Eve for the first time. So I'm going to show you a clip of Tarzan and Jane. Pay attention to how Disney captures the eyes of Tarzan. It's important. It really is. I'm glad what we're saying.
Oh, what a dream for mannequins, monkeys. I can't do this. I can't. Oh, this is good. This is very good. Okay. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Can't possibly get any worse, can it? Obviously, it can. Don't put it closer. Stay back. Stay. What are you doing? Oh, no, please don't. No. Serves you right now. You stay away from me like a very good wild man. You stay. I'm warning you. My father will take care of you. Now, that's enough. How dare you!
But the eyes show an awakening. Alright? So when Adam awakes and sees Eve, he says, bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. Adam sees eternity in this person. Now, you may think to yourself, oh, that sounds so abstract. But it's really not. Why do you care about anything good on this earth is because it points in some way to the good of heaven. Right? Did anything you do that is good, sports, friends, even your studies. I know that's sometimes. But think about it. Anything good on this earth points to heaven. And how much more should the female body, men, point us to heaven? I mean, but what we do in our culture and what we're trained to do is reduce it to merely something we want to get pleasure from. You see, though, I just got this question. I was at this interfaith dialogue thing, and someone asked me, well, why does the church hate sex? I said, that's funny, because you're Protestant, and if you really read your documents on sexuality, you're more strict than we are. But you don't read that, I know. So, I do, but anyhow, but I think people think we don't like the whole idea of sexual desire. No. When sexual desire is inverted to my good and doing what I want, then it's a perversion. It's perverted to my needs. But sexual desire is meant to be given to the other. And in reciprocation. And when Adam sees Eve in the beginning and he sees her body, he sees God in her body. He says, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. And then he recognizes himself as male. Always tell us, you can't know yourself as a male without a female. You're like, yes, you could. That's hilarious. How would you know? My son the other day, which was like 5 years ago, it really was 4 years ago. It's funny how I say the other day. But anyway, 4 years ago, my wife and I went on a date. She got dressed up. She comes down the steps, and all of a sudden my son looks at her and goes, Mom, you're a girl! I guess she doesn't dress up that much. Anyways, but it was really funny, because it was like, he was awakened by her beauty at that point, you know? And it's a beautiful thing. So this is what's going on in the beginning. Now, original nakedness, this is funny because it says that they were naked without shame. And the funny thing about this is, like, people automatically assume, and those of you in my class know we tell this all the time, it doesn't mean the 4-year-old or 5-year-old kid who runs around naked, like, free, or the old man in a dressing room. Who walks around, hey, all you guys know I'm talking about. So anyways, they just sit right there. High school was crazy. So anyway, I was a swimmer. So anyways, we used to work at this fitness club, and man, it was the same guy, and he'd just be walking around, hey, and you're like, no! But this isn't original nakedness. My son, my 4-year-old, talked about, never thought I'd ever tell this to a human person ever. Never. Okay? My 4-year-old hates the restraint of clothing. He hates it. He loves to just loves to be naked. Alright? This is what he does. And if he goes to the bathroom, he just takes everything off and he goes to the bathroom. It's just too much. It's too much. What is this? But anyways, one day I go and I'm by myself and all the kids are playing outside and he's inside playing the iPad, but he's got to go to the bathroom. But it's only you can't play the iPad in the bathroom because they'll really stay there too long. So that's a rule. Only I can do that. So anyhow, but anyways, so he comes out and he runs past me looking for the other kids and he's naked. I say, get in there, get your clothes on, come on! So he goes back into the bathroom, but I'm distracted. I'm washing dishes or something. I don't remember exactly. And all of a sudden it's eerie quiet. Eerie quiet. You know the quiet where like it's like scary movie quiet or something bad is happening because the kids are into something they shouldn't be. So all of a sudden, like 5 minutes go by and I'm like, where's Isaiah? So I look all over the house, I can't find him. Oh no. All of a sudden I look out the window. Sure enough, there's all the neighborhood kids that at least like my kids running in the backyard. He's coming! And there's my son, naked, running after them. Never thought I'd ever tell a human individual as I stepped outside, son, get in the house! You can't run around the neighborhood naked after kids slapping your bottom! Never thought I'd ever tell a kid. Never thought I'd tell a human person that. Beautiful stuff. That's not original nakedness. However, what original nakedness is the experience of shame was not present. Now, you may think about what is shame. Shame is this. Shame is when you define yourself by the bad that you do. You become or identify yourself as the problem. I'm not smart. I'm stupid. I'm so dumb. I'm a freaking idiot. Or whatever you want to call yourself. You say those statements. I'm fat because I don't look good in this shirt. Or you say things like, my parents never are proud of me. Or things like that. We have shame all in our experience. And again, they didn't have that. It was, I am a gift that is meant to be given to you. So when he saw her, he saw eternity. Not only that, he saw that he was made to be a gift. This is a picture of a man taken right when he saw his bride for the first time. This is not staged. It's not staged. It's candid. And this guy's not crying because he's bald. Although that may make some men cry. But look at that. It's another expression of deep, deep, deep wonder, ponder, and gift. This guy, let me ask you a question. Is this guy, at this point, as he's looking at his bride for the first time, is he at all looking at her and saying to himself, I cannot wait till tonight? Or is he so caught up in the moment, the only mere expression that he can show is this. Words cannot convey the deep mystery of what he's experiencing right now. It's beyond words. Every one of you know what he's saying by his body. Do you see? I think this is nakedness without shame. All right? Well, how do the women look? This my coworker Keith, he told me about a woman getting engaged. I mean, when you think about this, I mean, you're drawn to tears. Most women I know that they get engaged to, they start proposing, they start drawing to tears, unless they don't like the man. You know, or I mean, you might not cry. Don't get me wrong. You're like, Courtney said you're supposed to cry if you like you, so I gotta cry. You know what to do? I'm sorry. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. But think of this one here too. Like, it's just you're so caught up in the moment. Nothing else matters. It's the moment at this point. You know that song, this is the moment, we're going to throw our hands up. You know, whatever. Now you start really crying if you're on The Bachelor because, man, you 1 out of 25 women. Dang, you really be crying. So, oh, I can't believe it. I'm going to get $1 million too. Woo! I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I have no idea how that show works. I just know that's where it came from. And then this is one of my favorite expressions because it shows at this moment that it's pure gift. I'm receiving this gift from the man. He's on one knee, sacrifice. Beautiful imagery here. All right? Now, original sin brings shame into the picture. I mentioned to you what shame is. Defining yourself by the bad. As soon as they took from the tree and ate, their vision of each other changed. It went from wanting to be a gift to now, in a sense, what I want to do is I want to take from you. All right? Now, what does that do and how it affects the body? I don't have time to show you this clip, but all of you probably have seen it on YouTube. If you want to know what shame has done to the body, go to all those Dove commercials. And the one on a forensic scientist. What's so profound about this video is that every single woman reduces their beauty to something or an imperfection that they perceive, like their forehead's too big, their eyebrows are connected, or they got freckles, and they reduce their beauty to a part. But your body's so much more beautiful than that. And every man in this room, not to quote One Direction, but that's essentially what he experiences when he sees a beautiful woman. Those songs are very true in some respect. I just wish 5 cheesy men didn't sing it. Sorry if you like One Direction, I'm sorry. Yeah. You'll get over it. So anyways. So, I'll also put that picture. I'd like to turn this over briefly to love. And I say briefly because I've been talking about love in terms of the human person and how we define love. And I want you to look at this quote right here. Betrothed love differs from all the aspects forms of love analyzed. Its decisive character is giving of one's own person to another. The essence of betrothed love is self-giving, the surrender of one's I. I surrender my I to the other. And in this surrendering, this is why it hurts so dang bad when it splits. Alright? It hurts. Because it's your heart. If it didn't matter, if it was just like, hey, it's no big deal, no big deal. No, it's a big deal. It hurts. You know, John Deere letters, that's a terrible joke. Most you don't even do that anymore. You do text, I'm going to break up with you. That would hurt even worse. You know why that would hurt even worse? And that's someone doing it in person? Because they don't have to answer you back. They don't have to deal with your emotion. So now you're stuck even more alone. Original said, you're even more alone now. So if you really want to break up with someone, my advice to you is to do it in person. Man up. Do it in person. And then if she starts crying, then run. Sorry, that's a joke. That's a bad joke. And he goes, so mean! You didn't run when he cries. That's just because guys don't know how to handle tears. So they marry. Anyhow. So the definition of love is all you know, an act of the will directed towards the good of the other. That's me and my wife, dressed up like a shark. Anyhow. Love shark. These 4 types of love, the Greeks have 4 different loves, so I'm only going to delineate them just for your knowledge, because you know these already. You have affection, friendship, eros, and agape. Alright? Each of these had a specific role. Affections we share with the animals. You know, holding hands, animals have affection to other animals. They do it all the time. My dog sits next to a cat and loves the cat. Sure. In terms of affection, you know, friendship. Friendship was the highest form of love to ancient Greeks, like Plato and Aristotle. But friendship was for virtue's sake. Not mutual pleasure or mutual benefit. It was for virtue's sake. A lot of you have friends that have mutual benefit at this point. You get something from them and you get something in return. And that's not bad, it's just where it is. Or you have mutual interests, mutual pleasure. You both like the same thing. You do the same things. You know what I'm saying? So it's okay, that's where your friendship is. But deep friendship, virtuous friendship, is my friendship with you, is my willing to want what's best for you and what's good for you. Alright? That's when it gets to the when friendships are tested, not bad, but tested. You know, that's when you start to understand how the Greeks talked about filial love, which is the virtue of friendship. Okay? And then eros, the sexual drive. The Christian church came up with agape. Total self-donation. self-donated love, which was the cross. This type of love should be given in the sexual drive. What John Paul II does for us is he says in our sexuality, our sexual drive, our attraction to the other, needs to be guided by love, chastity. Chastity exists for the sake of love. Directed to that person's good. I had a young man come to me 2 years ago, asking whether or not he should date this girl. And I posed the question to him. I said, you should just ask this one question. What is good for her and you? And common good. Not just what you think you two is good, but the common good. Is this relationship good for you and good for her? And you know what he told me? Just by asking the question, he looked at me and he said, this is probably bad. I said, then don't date her. And he didn't. He didn't date her. Okay, he didn't do it. That was hard. I know it was hard for him. It was very hard for him. I had a young woman, I think it was 3 weeks ago, come in my office. She could not break up with this guy, even though she knows he doesn't love her. She can't do it. She can't do it because it hurts too bad. Why? Shame. Shame. Her shame. And what's her shame? If I don't have his love, I don't know who I am. I don't know who I'm going to be. He affirms me. But when he stops affirming me, the funniest thing about it, she's longing so much for affirmation, even when he does affirm her, she doesn't even hear it. It's because she identifies her by herself by the shame. What shame does is it wraps itself, that lie, that core lie we believe about ourselves, it wraps itself around us like a coiled snake. And we need grace, the ultimate snake hunter, to come and uncoil that. I know that sounds bizarre, but that's what it does. And if you don't think shame has affected you in some way, you haven't really thought about it. You really haven't even thought about it. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about right when I mention it. Okay? And this is exactly what's going on here. What the Holy Father is calling us to do is that over time, although we can never really reach this, through grace, we can come to really love who the person is. An integrated sexuality is seeing them for the person, understanding who they are, and wanting what's best for them, and putting my good aside. And if that person can do the same, what kind of relationship is that? Think about it. I was newly married, and my wife woke up one morning and she didn't change the tire in the car. It was 5:30 in the morning. You know how easy it is to put air in a tire, ladies? Take the nose, put it on the thing, and it blows up. It's amazing what man can do. So she wakes up in the morning and is like, I forgot to put air in my tire. She knows how to do it. Like, how do you not know how to put air? I started yelling. How do you not know how to put air in a tire? What is wrong with you? Oh, you're such a blonde. That was bad. So anyhow, I leave and I go. It took me 4 minutes to go to the gas station. Let's just right down the road. Put air in a tire, and as I'm putting air in a tire, I said, I'm such a jerk. Oh, I've got problems. It's just air in the car. So I go to drive above it. I go to work. All right? And as I go to work, I apologize to her at home, but I go to work, I left all of my grades at home. And she was a teacher too, which meant I had to call her and say, can you bring my grades? Because I have to serve Mass and I can't leave. And she had to bring her grades over to my work. And then she risked getting written up. She did show up late, and she did get written up at work. Now, I'm going to tell you something right now. Had I just woken up in a cordial way and been like, yes, babe, I will do that for you, how awesome that that morning would have went. Small example of what I'm talking about here. Surrendering one's eye. Mutually surrender of one's eye. Okay? This is integrated sexuality. When we do this on a normal basis, on normal ways, okay, just in friendships, even in my wife and I's just sitting down talking to each other, if I share my vulnerable self with my wife, if I'm vulnerable with her, she feels even more protected when I do that. And if I listen to where she's at and we're emotionally connected, the sexual act becomes a gift of that, a fruit of that. It's guided by that. And it's not just saying, well, I just want to get this and that's it. You always hear these statements like, all men want is that. All men want is that. That's so bull. You know, if I asked every one of these kids in here, every one of these men in the room, what they really want in a relationship is faithful, authentic love. Same as you, girls. Same dang thing. Same thing. All right? It's the same thing. But the only thing they don't do is they don't wrap their worth in their body like you do. They don't wrap their attractiveness in their body like you do, and you've been taught to do. Now, some of them want to be ripped and huge, like me. It's hard work. You have to see all the food that goes in your body. Okay, so I kind of made it awkward. I'm going to skip through these, but these are pretty much statements of love and how they're not. And I just want to show you a video. Okay, here's what I was talking about: betrothed love, swearing one's eye, entering each other's mess. I was just talking about emotional stuff going on there. But I want to share this video with you of what integrated sexuality and integrated love is. It's a how do I say this? It's a funeral, and it's a woman giving a eulogy for her husband. So hopefully it works, because if it doesn't, well then I won't show it. So here we go. She's kind of hard to hear, so you gotta pay attention. Excuse me, I'm gonna find the video here. You like that?
Mrs. Lee, I believe you have some words to say about the dearly departed.
I'm not going to sing praises for my late husband. Not today. And neither am I going to talk about how good he was. Enough people have done that here. Instead, I want to talk about some things that will make some of you feel a bit uncomfortable. First off, I want to talk about what happened in bed. Ever had difficulty starting your car engine in the morning? Well, that's exactly what David's snoring sounded like. But wait, snoring wasn't everything. There was also this rear end wind action going on as well. Some nights, it would be so forceful, it would wake him up. What was that? He would ask. Oh, it's the dog, I would say. Go back to sleep, dear. Oh, you might find this all very funny, but towards the end of his life, when his illness was at its worst, these sounds indicated to me that my David was still alive. And what I wouldn't give just to hear those sounds again before I sleep. In the end, it's these small things that you remember, little imperfections that make them perfect for you. So to my beautiful children, I hope one day you too find yourselves life partners who are as beautifully imperfect as your father was to me.
Alright, so I wanted to show you that video for two reasons. First, I know none of you were married. So now that we got that squared away, but I will tell you this. Your ability to love does not start when you're 55 and been married for 35 years. Or it doesn't start when you first meet that person whom you want to give yourself to for the rest of your life. Your ability to love with a full integration of understanding the human person, it needs to start now. So your friends and people you meet at school, you pray that God can show you Himself in them. Pray that God can help you become the friend you long to be for them. You know, pray for that stuff. Work towards making it a habit to do that. Because here's the deal: what happens in the marriages that I counsel only insofar as I say I help them, the number one thing that starts to really happen is they both pit against each other. They're not hearing each other anymore. They want to be right or wrong. And not only that, what I find a lot of times is a lot of men aren't willing to enter into the emotional mess of their wives. And what do I mean by that? It means when they start getting really emotional. What girls do, if you've ever experienced a girl freaking out, okay? It's like you want to write them off. You're like, that girl's nuts. That's crazy. Crazy. But really, she's hurt. She's just hurt. You know, and if you have a sister who's starting to do that, you know, don't just be like, no, I'm going to leave. Like my son will just say in the middle of that, he's like, just calm down. He can't take it. You know, when the girls start fighting, he's like, Jonah! Wyatt! I'm trying to sleep! Like he'll just say something. So, and a lot of times it's just this ability to do that. And guys, for us, I'm telling you right now, one of the things we're taught is that vulnerability is weakness. That you being vulnerable to someone, you sharing what you feel is a weakness. That's just not. It's not true. And that's why the spiritual life can become an aversion sometimes to men. Because in a lot of ways what we have is a church that's calling us to task to say we need to give ourselves to Christ. And what that essentially means is Christ does not look at us as perfect people. He can see our imperfections and see the beauty in us anyway. He can do that. If I took a $100 bill and started blowing my nose in it and smearing it on the floor, all of you would still want it. Yes, you would. You know, you're like, yes, you would. You feel, I'll wash that sucker and still be $100. You know you would. Don't even. Well, I take it. But anyway, that's how God sees us. Okay? An estimable value, an estimable word. And so what we need to do, the second thing I'm going to show you is she hit it on the nail on the head. She hit the nail on the head. Is when we come to love the other for who they are. For who they are. Imperfections, perfections, whatever it is. We love them for who they are. And that's the extent of what we're called to. And when we do all this, when we really start to experience this, when it comes to dating, we bring this into dating, that is essentially when we start to experience faithful love. And the love that we really desire. All right? So I'm going to put my small group questions up here. And Greg, you want to get in small group, get this baby rolling here?